One day, in a moment of weakness, I convinced myself that inviting my ex over to my house was a good idea. This was the very place where everything had fallen apart. To truly grasp the weight of my actions, I need to step back and share the full story of my life and the choices that led me here. My name is Shannon, and I am 32 years old. I am about to reveal how I ultimately shattered my 6-year marriage to Nathan, a man who, in hindsight, probably deserved much better than what I gave him. Our story is one of love, betrayal, and the harsh lessons that come from poor decisions. Nathan and I first crossed paths because of my ex-boyfriend, Alex. It was a twist of fate I never saw coming, since Nathan and Alex were once college friends. By the time I entered the picture, their friendship had cooled off, but they still shared mutual friends and social circles, which created an unspoken tension between them. I first noticed Nathan at a housewarming party. His reserved demeanor and composed nature stood in stark contrast to Alex's carefree and spontaneous personality. Nathan seemed to have his life well organized, while Alex felt chaotic and unpredictable. It was clear that Nathan represented a more stable choice, and so we began dating. After 2 years, we took the leap and got married. At first, everything seemed perfect. Nathan received several promotions in his cybersecurity job, giving us a steady income, while I worked in an insurance office. Nothing glamorous, but it covered our bills. However, as Nathan's work hours grew longer and his stress levels increased, he often isolated himself in his office, finding comfort in video games or work. I began to feel lonely as our once loving marriage turned into a monotonous routine, lacking the warmth and intimacy we once shared. Then, out of nowhere, Alex reached out to me on Facebook. At first, our conversations were casual, simply catching up on life, but soon they escalated into something more meaningful. I found myself eagerly replying to his messages, enjoying the attention from someone who remembered small details about me, details Nathan had seemingly forgotten. Alex knew my favorite coffee, the wines I loved, and even old stories that made me feel appreciated in a way I hadn't in a long time. I began to look forward to Alex's texts every day, lied to Nathan about who I was talking to, telling him it was just my mom or a coworker. As our conversations deepened, I couldn't help but compare the two men. Nathan's comfort in our marriage made me feel trapped, as our weekends blurred into a repetitive routine that left me craving excitement. In contrast, Alex was still charming and captivating, reigniting emotions I thought had faded long ago. My friend, Terra, started noticing something was off. She saw me taking longer lunch breaks to meet Alex and warned me that it seemed like I was crossing a line. I brushed off her concerns, convincing myself that I was simply reconnecting with an old friend. Then, I made a reckless decision that changed everything. I gave Alex a spare key to our house while Nathan was away for a 3-day conference. I justified it to myself by saying it was for emergencies, but deep down, I knew it was a dangerous choice. One evening, Alex came over, and we sat too close on the couch. The electricity between us was undeniable. Even though nothing physical happened, the way we lingered during our hug goodbye hinted at something deeper, a connection that was growing stronger with every passing moment. Not long after, Nathan confronted me about my relationship with Alex. Feeling trapped and defensive, I accused him of being paranoid and tried to deflect his concerns, desperately trying to cover up what I knew was a mistake. I hurled accusations back at Nathan, twisting the situation to make it seem like his insecurities were the real issue rather than the undeniable truth of my actions. However, the following morning, fate intervened cruelly. Nathan found my phone, and a message from Alex laid bare more than I had ever intended. When he confronted me, I scrambled to downplay the situation, insisting it was nothing more than harmless flirting. But Nathan saw through my feeble justifications. His initial pain quickly transformed into anger, and he delivered an ultimatum: cut all ties with Alex completely, or our marriage was over. Though I agreed to sever my connection with Alex, my commitment was half-hearted at best. I messaged him, vaguely suggesting that we should take a step back, but I intentionally left my reasons ambiguous, secretly hoping to keep the door open for future communication. Despite Nathan's earnest efforts to mend our marriage, planning romantic date nights, and even proposing couples therapy, I felt increasingly suffocated. My desire for excitement and validation overshadowed my better judgment, and I continued messaging Alex, albeit with more discretion. Eventually, I even went as far as purchasing a second phone to maintain our secret conversations without Nathan's knowledge. The situation reached its breaking point on a fateful Tuesday. Nathan called to say he would be home earlier than expected, sending me into a panic. Alex was already on his way over. Instead of canceling our plans, I hastily concocted a lie, telling Nathan I had to work late. I convinced myself it was just a temporary fix, a small deception to maintain control of the situation. But fate had other plans. Nathan's meeting was rescheduled, and he texted me once again, confirming that he would be arriving even earlier. A surge of relief mixed with dread coursed through me. I immediately messaged Alex, telling him our plans were still on. When Nathan walked to the door unexpectedly, the scene before him was damning. Takeout containers littered the coffee table, half-filled wine glasses had abandoned, and Alex's jacket was casually draped over a chair. The weight of my betrayal crashed down in an instant. The look on Nathan's face shifted from confusion to sheer devastation in mere seconds. I stammered out a feeble excuse, fully aware of how hollow my words sounded. But what terrified me most was Nathan's unnerving calmness. He didn't shout, didn't rage. He simply processed the betrayal in silence, making the gravity of the moment even heavier. In a desperate attempt to regain some control, I lashed out, insisting that it was my home too, and that I could invite whomever I wanted. But as the words left my lips, I regretted them instantly. Nathan's expression hardened. He turned to Alex, instructing him to leave without another word. Once Alex was gone, the tension between us erupted. Nathan confronted me, his voice steady yet laced with raw emotion. He expressed just how deeply I had wounded him, questioning whether I had ever truly respected our marriage and the life we had built together. At that moment, the full weight of my choices became painfully clear. I had crossed a line from which there was no return. I didn't want to lose Nathan, yet I couldn't deny the connection I felt with Alex. Our argument spiraled into a storm of accusations and bitter truths, until Nathan finally looked at me and said he couldn't do this anymore. Reality settled in, but I had been too blinded by my infatuation with Alex to see the destruction I had caused. I hastily packed a bag and left, convinced that Alex would be my refuge. But when I arrived at his apartment, expecting a warm embrace, I was met with hesitation. Alex's expression was a mix of surprise and discomfort. He offered me a place to stay, but his words made it clear he wasn't prepared for fallout of my decisions. He wasn't ready for the chaos I had unleashed. A sickening wave of nausea washed over me as the truth finally sank in. This wasn't the romantic escape I had imagined. I had sacrificed everything for a fleeting thrill, and now I stood empty-handed. In the months that followed, my life unraveled. I drifted between hotel rooms, desperately searching for a new apartment, while grappling with the emotional wreckage I had caused. Nathan and I only communicated through brief, impersonal texts to arrange for me to collect my belongings. I quickly realized how financially unprepared I was without Nathan's income. The harsh reality of starting over at 32 hit me like a ton of bricks. Meanwhile, Alex, the man I had risked it all for, vanished from my life without a trace. He ghosted me entirely, leaving me humiliated and lost. I considered reaching out, but the thought of appearing desperate held me back. Desperation led me to attempt reconnecting with Nathan, hoping to mend what I had shattered. But he stood firm in his decision. Though he told me he could forgive me, he made it clear he could never forget the betrayal. 3 months later, our divorce was finalized. Nathan took a new job in another city, leaving behind the remnants of the life we had built together. Time moved forward for everyone but me. At least, not in the way I had hoped. Months later, when Alex resurfaced in my messages, I didn't hesitate. I blocked him. The fantasy I had chased wasn't worth the wreckage I had left behind. Now, I am still learning to navigate my new reality, figuring out how to live with the weight of my decisions without allowing them to define me. Each day is a small step toward self-awareness, toward taking accountability for the pain I caused. It isn't much, but it's a beginning. I carry the burden of my choices, but I am determined to learn from them, to grow, to change, and someday to find peace within myself.